day, ladies and gentlemen, little sisters and brothers. I know. You tired of talking about the Greeks. I got that. I got that. That picture right there. What do y'all see in that picture? What do you guys see in that picture right there? I'm gonna tell you what I see in the picture. Tell me what you see in that picture in the comment section. If you even got to stop the tape, go back and rewind it. Tell me what do you see in the comment section in that picture. What did the Egyptians depict? Okay, let's continue. I got that. I got that. But there's at least one last thing I want to show you before we move to another dispensation. Question. Remember when the scriptures told us the Rhodeans seeded, quote, Greece, the whole world, and the adjacent coast with Greeks? I can't hear your answer because this is a video. But if you remember that, I want you to listen to this and tell me if you perceive the striking parallels between the Greeks of Sparta of antiquity and their cloned American counterparts. Who, me? I perceived, wow, I perceived this just can't be a coincidence. But I want you to tell me what you perceive in the comment section. Okay? Saying that, according to Wikipedia under Helots, Helots, quote, the Helots were a subjugated population group that formed the main population of Laconia and Messina, the territory controlled by Sparta. Listen up. The exact status was already disputed in antiquity. According to Critias, they were, personal quote, slaves to the utmost, whereas, according to Pollux, they occupied a status, personal quote, between free men and slaves. Tied to the land, what? Tied to the land, they primarily worked in agriculture as a majority and economically supported the Spartan citizens. The number of Helots in relation to Spartan citizens varied throughout the history of the Spartan state. According to Herodotus, there were 7 Helots for each Spartan at the time of the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC. Thus, the need to keep Helot population in check and preventing rebellion was one of the main concerns of the Spartans. Stop. Bingo. I know they are minor, but surely you can see the similarities. The southern strain was outnumbered, slaves to the utmost, and, as we discovered, the Psalms 83 gang exact status was disputed when they arrived, etc. But let's continue for more clues. Oh yeah, remember when I deduced the Rhodeans cloned more Helots than needed so their Nephilim, so their Spartanettes could ritually kill them? I still can't hear your answer, but if you remember me saying something like that, listen to this madness. Quote, Helots were ritually mistreated, humiliated, and even slaughtered. Every autumn, the Spartans would declare war on the Helots so they could be killed by a member of the Criteria without fear of repercussions. Uprisings and attempts to improve the lot of the Helots did occur, such as the conspiracy of Citadon. Stop. We've already gone over the similarities between this and the actions of the Brethren during Jim Crow. So let's continue, please. Under treatment by Spartans, quote, from at least the classical period, the number of Spartans were very small in comparison to that of the Helots. In a celebrated passage, Thucydides stresses that, personal quote, most Spartan institutions have always been designed with the view to security against the Helots. Aristotle compares them to, personal quote, an enemy constantly sitting in wait of the disaster of the Spartans. Consequently, fear seems to be an important factor governing relations between Spartans and Helots. Stop. 4 words. Birth of a nation. Little known fact. Did you know most slave masters slept at the highest point of the house with his gun in his hand each night? I said that because of this. Let's continue, please. Quote, according to tradition, the Spartanettes always carried their spears, undid the straps of their bucklers only when at home lest the Helots seize them, and locked themselves in their homes. They also took active measures, subjecting them to what Theopompus describes as, personal quote, an altogether cruel and bitter condition. Let me say it again. An altogether cruel and bitter condition. According to Myron of Priene, an anti-Spartan historian in the middle 3rd century BC, personal quote, they assigned to the Helots every shameful task leading to disgrace. For they ordained that each one of them must wear a dog-skin cap and wrap themselves in skins and receive a stipulated number of beatings every year regardless of any wrongdoing, so that they would never forget they were slaves. Moreover, if any exceeded the vigor proper to a slave's condition, they made death the penalty, and they allotted a punishment to those controlling them if they failed. Stop. Bingo. So as you can plainly see, masochism runs in the family. Instead of uncomfortable iron chains, they wrapped them in hot skins. Now think about this. When it said, quote, and they allotted a punishment to those controlling them if they failed, that can only mean the Spartans had the slave driver system in place as well. But let's continue for more clues, shall we? Listen to this. Quote, Plutarch also states that Spartans treated the Helots, personal quote, harshly and cruelly. They compelled them to drink pure wine, which was considered dangerous, wine usually being diluted with water, and to lead them in that condition into their public halls, that the children might see what a sight a drunken man is. They made them to dance low dances and sing ridiculous songs. Lists during the obligatory banquets. I can't say that word. Listen to this. However, he notes that this rough treatment was inflicted only relatively late, after the 464 BC earthquake. Stop. Bingo. Is Little Miss Ivy the only person who immediately thought of the Helots in America when I read that? I mean, everything from treating you bad and making you love it, to getting you drunk and then publicly making a spectacle out of you. All the way down to hip-hop. Yep, hip-hop. You know, when it said, quote, they made them to dance low dances and sing ridiculous songs. Hey, wait. Hip-hop encompasses all of the above, huh? But allow me to ask you a question, gentle strangers. When you heard me read, quote, however, he notes that this rough treatment was inflicted only relatively late, after the 464 BC earthquake. My question is, what did you perceive? Who, me? Well, seeing the evildoers use wars, death, and disaster to repopulate the world with their clones, I perceived new and fresh upgraded replicas ascended after the earthquake. But this bunch, they were programmed with a peculiar cruelty. Allow me to ask you yet another question, gentle stranger. What is the compound probability? Actuarial science. Bring it, Little Miss Ivy. Yep. What are the odds that each each and every signature discomfort of the Greeks of antiquity also pins the tale on the southern strain of white man to the jot and tittle. And it not be epigenetics. And it not be epigenetics. Come on. But I know, I need to stop jumping the gun and let the sun shine in, painted with a grin. Open up my heart and let the sun shine in. I need to let the sun shine in. I got that. And maybe you are right. And even though the scriptures attest Greece clones are all over the whole world, maybe the uncanny similarities are just coincidence after all. Let's continue for more clues, shall we? Quote, in short, Grote writes that, personal quote, the various ANECDOTES. I can't say that word for nothing in the world. And ecodotes. I can't say it nothing in the world. I just can't say it. Y'all know what it is. Let me start again. I'm going to say the A word. The A word. Okay. Personal quote. The various A word, which are told respecting the Helots treatment at Sparta, betoken less of cruelty than of ostentatious scorn. He's saying that it's nothing but scorn. He has been followed recently by J. Ducat, who describes Spartan treatment of the Helots as, personal quote, a kind of ideological warfare designed to condition the Helots to think of themselves as inferior. Who does that sound like? This strategy seems to have been successful, at least for the Laconian Helots. This strategy seems to have been successful, at least for the Laconian Helots. Personal quote. When the Thebans ordered the group of Laconian Helite prisoners to recite the verses of the national poets of Thebes, they refused on the grounds that it would displease their masters. Stop. Bingo! If this ain't the modern color, I don't know what is. The old Egyptian affliction, Stockholm Helsinki syndrome, with the Willie Lynch twist all over again. Say something bad about the white man and see who is going to try to get your mind right first. You know who it is. But let's continue for more clues, shall we? We have heard this next part before, but I want you to hear what's said behind it. Quote, other modern scholars consider then, personal quote, although the details may be fanciful, Myron's evidence does reflect accurately the general Spartanate attitude towards Helots. It has also been stressed that contempt alone could hardly explain the organized murder of Helots mentioned by several ancient sources. Stop! The same thing I say about the southern strain of white man. Just as the scriptures attest, their enmity for us goes way beyond simple contempt. I mean, it goes way beyond it. Am I right about it? Somebody tell me if I'm right about it. But let's continue. Quote, this lack of judicial protection is confirmed by Myron of Pyrenees, who mentions killing as a standard mode of regulation of the Helot population. Thus, 2,000 Helots were massacred in 491 BC in a carefully staged event. Personal quote, the Helots were invited by a proclamation to pick out those their number. Let me say it again. The Helots were invited by a proclamation to pick out those of their number who claimed to have most distinguished themselves against the enemy in order that they might receive their freedom. The object being a test to them, as it was thought that the first to claim their freedom would be the most high-spirited, and the most apt to rebel. As many as 2,000 were selected accordingly, who crowned themselves and went around the temples, rejoicing in their new freedom. The Spartans, however, soon afterwards did away with them, and no one ever knew how each of them perished. Thus, Paul Cartledge claims that, personal quote, the history of Sparta is fundamentally the history of the class struggle between the Spartans and the Helots. Example, does that not sound like the wicked genius of the white strain, or what? So what do you think what do you think about the similar MOs of the ancient Greeks and the modern Jim Crow Greeks? Comment section is always open. Wait, wait. Let me be honest. Come on, I got something to confess, ladies and gentlemen. I got something to confess. I'm trying to be a much kinder and gentler scribe. Y'all know it. So, I've been sandbagging on y'all. I'm sandbagging on a huge similarity that just may swing your vote. But tell me if you need it in the comment section. You may not need to hear this ugliness that I really don't want to say. You may not need to hear it. It's a similarity. It's a huge one. But I don't know. I don't want to do it. But y'all let me know in the comment section. Okay? Thank you for looking at this video. My God's will. Look for the next.